Chapter 709. This is what I wanted to say to you as well. Yi Chen squinted his eyes slightly. As he opened and closed his eyes, a bright light condensed into a line, looking like two silver beams of light. A wild wind blew, causing his black hair to dance in the air like clouds. Hee, interesting. Yi Chen was not only the first powerful opponent Lu Wujian had ever met, but also the first one to look down on him. This made him so angry that he started laughing instead, feeling that he was being looked down upon. Since you are so confident, then I will beat you until you lose your confidence. I, Lu Wujian, have roamed the West Ocean for 10 years without losing once. Today, I will not lose either. The one who will lose will be you. Putting the longsword back into its scabbard, Lu Wujian's body slightly leaned forward. His right hand was placed on the sword hilt, and his sword aura was condensed. Is that so? You will be disappointed. The Thunder Disaster sword pointed downwards, and strands of black sword light shot out from its tip. Yi Chen's posture did not change as he looked straight at Lu Wujian. Whale breaking water, crazy kill. When the sword aura had accumulated to its peak, the instant it would explode if it continued to accumulate, Lu Wujian made his move. Clang! A resplendent blue-white sword light illuminated the horizon, seeming like a boundless ocean. Amidst the clear and crystalline waves, a colossus broke out of the water. It was a huge whale, not condensed from Jin Yuan, but sword qi. It was somewhat similar to Duguju's Fox of Despair. However, compared to Fox of Despair, this huge whale was even more tyrannical and frightening. With a biting cold-killing intent, the huge whale leaped into the air, opened its mouth, and attempted to swallow Yi Chen. The spectating experts in Yi Chen's position were overwhelmed with shock. The huge whale opened its mouth, revealing a pitch-black darkness inside. It was incomparably huge, as if it was a black hole that was constantly expanding. It seemed as if it was going to swallow the heaven and earth in front of it. They couldn't help but subconsciously take a few steps back. If you want to swallow, I'll let you swallow. Raising the Thunder Disaster sword high above his head, Yi Chen held it with both of his hands. Streams of black electric currents gathered on the tip of the sword, and in the next second, a thunderball appeared out of nowhere, spinning at a high speed. In just a blink of an eye, the thunderball had expanded to a few meters in size, and no matter how much it was compressed, it could not shrink. Go! The Thunder Disaster sword slashed out with all its might, and a huge thunderball flew into the whale's mouth, entering its body through its throat. Gurgle! A muffled sound rang out, and the giant whale's momentum slowed down. Its body swelled unnaturally, like an inflated balloon, and continued to inflate. Boom! As its body swelled to its limit, the giant whale exploded into pieces. A black and white shockwave spread out in a ring shape, and a black and white mushroom cloud shot up into the sky, poking a huge hole in the sky. At that moment, Yi Chen felt like a nuclear bomb had exploded in front of him. His body was blown away by the shockwave, and after a slight pause, he was blown backward like a piece of paper. Lu Wujian was not feeling good either. He did not expect Yi Chen's Thunder Devour to have so many changes. Before, it was compressing the thunderball to increase its power, and now, it was pouring in a huge amount of Jin Yuan to increase its explosive power. Judging from the size of the thunderball and its explosive power, the Thunder Profound contained in this move had exceeded the entry realm by quite a bit, at least 40%. Just the thunderball's explosive power was huge, and the giant whale was an enclosed environment. The thunderball's explosive power was unimaginable. Because of all these factors, the shockwave this time was unprecedentedly fierce. It was so fierce that it formed a ring-shaped circle, and all the power was gathered together. It wasn't a continuous shockwave. Creak! An unpleasant grinding sound came from the protective Jin Yuan. Lu Wujian only felt his body go numb, and he was blown backward involuntarily. The scenery on both sides was getting further and further away from him, turning into a blur. Retreat again. The shockwave was too ferocious, forming a circular chi wave. Apart from a few people, the rest retreated several li in succession. Yi Chen and Lu Wujian's figures had already turned into two small dots. Fortunately, by circulating Jin Yuan to their eyes, they could still see clearly. What a powerful shockwave! The mountain under their feet turned into ashes in an instant. Bai Wuxia and the rest leaped up and stood in the air, their protective Jin Yuan flickering. Break! Gu Lai stood in front of the multicolor-robed woman, condensing a Jin Yuan saber on his protective Jin Yuan and splitting the shockwave in half. This, even Brother Lu's whale breaking water was broken. The multicolor-robed woman could not understand what was going on. Gu Lai said with a solemn expression, "It's not the final moment yet." Right, Brother Lu's strongest trump card has not been used yet. The multicolor-robed woman regained her confidence in Lu Wujian and stared at the center of the explosion without blinking. After flying for about 7 or 8 li, Yi Chen finally stopped. He squinted his eyes to prevent the bright light from hurting them. He should still have killing moves. Worthy of being the West Ocean Sword Master. Apart from not using Golden Hurricane or defensive sword art, Yi Chen had already gone all out. Lu Wujian was the strongest swordsman he had met so far, so he could not afford to be careless. You can actually break my whale breaking water. Lu Wujian's calm expression turned grave. He had already realized that Yi Chen was not that easy to defeat. If he did not use all of his skills, he might not even be able to harm a single hair of his opponent. It could be said that Yi Chen was the biggest obstacle in his life. Either he tripped over the obstacle and fell to the ground, or he could step over it and continue forward. I will not lose. Lu Wujian had never thought that he would lose, and it was the same this time. Roar! The sky-piercing cloudy sword intent increased crazily. An extremely powerful aura spread out from Lu Wujian's body, and his Jin Yuan rose steadily. It seemed that he had used some secret technique to activate it, allowing him to exert a power far beyond his limit. Because the sword intent was too strong, and the cloudy sword intent was a sword intent with a relatively strong explosive power, it caused the aura outside Lu Wujian's body to condense into numerous illusory sword shadows. They were not man-made, but natural. In the blink of an eye, Lu Wujian was covered by the sword shadows, looking like a hedgehog with sword shadows. The extremely sharp sword aura scared a lot of people. Lu Wujian is about to go crazy. What a terrifying sword aura. This Lu Wujian's power is simply limitless. I wonder if Yi Chen can handle it. Look, Yi Chen is activating his sword intent as well. The crowd was first attracted by Lu Wujian, and then shifted their attention to Yi Chen. Yi Chen's destruction sword intent was even more powerful than Lu Wujian's cloudy sword intent. Once it was fully activated, the destructive aura was simply earth-shattering. Even the sky was dyed black. Above the sky, black lightning flashed endlessly. A huge black sword shadow condensed on Yi Chen's body. The sword shadow only released a bit of its sharpness, but it was already able to create a huge hole in the sky. Blood Sea Buddha. On the other side, Lu Wujian had already finished accumulating power. The surging aura around him caused the space around him to distort. Taking a step forward, Lu Wujian used every bit of strength in his body to swing his sword. As soon as the sword was unleashed, a bloody rain and a bloody sea spread out. Countless blood-colored sword shadows danced in the sky, turning the sky above the Nine-Dragon Lake into a bloody purgatory, covering Yi Chen. As he was increasing his sword intent, Yi Chen's cold eyes stared at Lu Wujian. He could see that Lu Wujian had not only comprehended the profound of wind and water, but also the extremely strange profound of blood. This Blood Sea Buddha was a combination of the profound of water and the profound of blood. Water and blood originally had something in common. Combining them, not only could the profound of water be improved, but it also allowed the profound of blood to be more powerful. It was a very overbearing profound martial art. Gold Hurricane. The combination of the profound of blood and the profound of water was very powerful, but the combination of the profound of metal and water of Yi Chen was not weak either. Metal gave birth to water, and there was a similar relationship between them. Once the two were combined, the power would increase rapidly, creating a cycle. The Thunder Disaster Sword shone with a dark golden luster as Yi Chen attacked with a horrifying destructive sword intent. Puchi. A dark golden ripple of light shot out. Within the ripple of light, the ripples pushed forward layer by layer, reaching the front. In the blink of an eye, its power had increased by leaps and bounds. It slammed into the blood-colored world, punching a hole in it and rushing in. Crackle. The blood-colored sword shadow and the ripple beam clashed together, shattering into pieces. On the surface of the blood sea, a deep sword mark was plowed out. The destructive sword intent filled the sword mark, continuously destroying the structure of the blood sea, causing huge waves to rise. The blood color gradually faded. Lu Wujian's face was cold and expressionless as he waved out another sword attack. The blood ocean covered the entire sky, and the sword shadows shot out everywhere. Break! Yi Chen did not waste any time. The Thunder Disaster Sword danced again and again, shooting out beams of ripple beams, bombarding the layers of the blood world. Bang! 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 As the two of them fought, the sun and the moon dimmed, sand and pebbles flew everywhere. The violent blood-red sword wind and the black sword wind interweaved together, spinning around the two of them, colliding with each other. Eventually, they formed a tornado that was several miles thick, connecting the sky and the earth. In the center of the tornado, the two continued to attack each other, seeming as if they would not stop until one of them fell. Only one of them could walk out of here. Gulp. Among the spectators, there were people swallowing their saliva from time to time, releasing their nervous emotions. Watching the blood-colored light and black light in the tornado, as well as the dense lightning caused by the friction of energy, someone finally couldn't help but say, "Fuck. This is too exaggerated. They are both Sea of Soul Realm master-level warriors, but this gap is too big. How is this a battle between two people? It looks like two Sea of Soul Realm armies fighting against each other. There is no way to resist at all. A battle between sword masters is indeed not something we can imagine. I wonder who among them will have the last laugh." As the battle continued, Yi Chen had already activated his dragon bone defense layer. A layer of white bone appeared on his skin, and his semi-extreme rank armor, the Muddy Sky armor, was also activated. Countless twisting blue symbols appeared on his protective Jin Yuan, increasing its defensive power. Even so, he still did not feel good. The qi and blood in his body were boiling like boiling water. On the other side, Lu Wujian also had a semi-extreme rank armor. It was a blue and white plate armor, which was slightly different from Yi Chen's Muddy Sky armor. This plate armor was releasing cloud-shaped symbols, which stuck on his protective Jin Yuan like simple white clouds. Besides that, the necklace around his neck also released a dark blue light, forming a second layer of defense outside of his protective Jin Yuan. Pine. 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 Qi waves continuously bombarded the dark blue light, bringing up circles of twisting ripples, which made Lu Wujian tremble from time to time. My Serene Ocean necklace is also a semi-extreme rank artifact. With 2 layers of defense, it should be able to hold on. I would like to see how long you can last. At this moment, it was no longer a battle of strength, but endurance. Whoever could not endure it first would lose. There was no other possibility. Chapter 710. This Lu Wujian actually has a semi-extreme grade accessory. Yen Fengfeng was a bit astonished. Among artifacts, the value of defensive artifacts was generally 2 times that of offensive artifacts, while accessory artifacts were 3 times that of offensive artifacts. The reason why they were so expensive wasn't because of how good they were. In fact, the aid they could provide was limited, and couldn't compare to defensive and offensive artifacts. However, they were too rare, and the rarer they were, the more valuable they were. Moreover, one could only wear a single defensive artifact and hold one or two offensive artifacts. Any more would be a waste. However, wearing accessories could still increase one's battle power, such as necklaces, bracelets, earrings, rings, and so on. Without any exaggeration, if an ordinary Sea of Soul Master were to wear a full set of semi-extreme grade defensive artifacts, hold a semi-extreme grade offensive artifact, and have a complete set of accessory artifacts, all of which were of semi-extreme grade, then even two Yi Chens wouldn't be able to do anything to the opponent, unless the opponent's Xin Yuan was exhausted. Of course, this was impossible. A full set of semi-extreme grade defensive artifacts was something that even a 4th grade sect, the Void Sect, couldn't collect. Moreover, a complete set of semi-extreme grade accessory artifacts was even more difficult than a full set of defensive artifacts. Being able to produce one or two was already quite amazing. Only in the ancient and medieval eras, when all kinds of artifact refining methods had not been lost, could such a thing happen. Lu Wujian's strength was already unpredictable, and adding a semi-extreme grade accessory, his defense had increased by a large margin. If this continued, Yi Chen would very likely lose. The situation is not good. Not to mention Lu Wujian's sword master level strength, he even has a semi-extreme grade accessory. How can he compete? Although the defense of a semi-extreme grade necklace is not as good as a semi-extreme grade armor, it's at least 60 to 70% effective. Could it be that Yi Chen will really lose? Everyone's face revealed a worried expression. Contrary to everyone else, the multicolor-robed woman revealed a joyous expression. So what if he's the continent sword sect? He still has to make way for our West Ocean sword sect. Bang bang bang. In the tornado, the two had already exchanged over 100 moves, each with their full strength. For a moment, the earth shook, and the sky turned dark. Yi Chen, admit defeat. You can't defeat me. Lu Wujian was very confident. In terms of defense, he had 2 layers. In terms of cultivation base, he was already at peak level late Sea of Souls realm at the age of 32. His Xin Yuan was much more abundant than Yi Chen's. Therefore, even if Yi Chen could endure the continuous attacks, his Xin Yuan would be exhausted, and he would lose all of his battle power. The battle hasn't ended yet, so why should I admit defeat? Lu Wujian had 2 layers of defense, and so did Yi Chen. Although the Dragon Bone defense layer was not as powerful as a semi-extreme rank accessory, it was still very powerful. It had helped Yi Chen to offset a lot of the power, and saved him from getting hurt. You'll give up sooner or later. Lu Wujian secretly increased his strength, and his true essence flowed like water. The pressure on Yi Chen increased greatly, and he inwardly creased his brows. In terms of endurance, he naturally couldn't compete with Lu Wujian. In any case, the latter had a cultivation base of peak late Sea of Souls realm, and his Xin Yuan was 20 to 30% more vigorous than his. Even if the consumption was huge, he should still have 10% Xin Yuan left. Blood-severing Ghost Finger has more or less reached 20% maturity. Let's cut off a portion of his blood first. Waving the Thunder Disaster Sword with his right hand, Yi Chen released a ripple of light while his left hand slashed toward Lu Wujian. Like a judge's pen, he could judge a person's life and death. It possessed an indescribable boldness, causing others to feel indescribably frightened and panicky. Lu Wujian thought that Yi Chen was going to use finger arts to attack him. He disdainfully smiled and didn't take any measures. With 2 layers of defense, he didn't need to worry at all. However, when Yi Chen's sword finger slashed down, Lu Wujian's expression changed. For some reason, a small portion of his qi and blood had disappeared, as if it had evaporated. This small portion was only 1,000th of his qi and blood. It wasn't much, but anyone would feel uneasy if they discovered that a small portion of their qi and blood had mysteriously disappeared. What kind of finger art is this? Lu Wujian secretly raised his guard. The effect is not bad. This time, I'll be a bit more ruthless. Previously, it was just a test, so Yi Chen didn't use his full strength. Cut. Condensing Jin Yuan on his sword finger, Yi Chen slashed toward his opponent again. Different from last time, as Yi Chen's sword finger slashed out, a withered white palm shadow appeared within Lu Wujian's protective Jin Yuan. The white palm reached into Lu Wujian's body and grabbed out a blood light. It then clenched its fist, and the blood light dissipated into nothingness. How dare you cut off my blood and qi? Lu Wujian roared. He was shocked and angry at the same time. His blood and qi had suddenly been reduced by 5%. What kind of concept was this? Only when one was in his best condition could he use his peak battle power. Losing 5% of his blood and qi meant that his condition had instantly deteriorated, and his explosive power had dropped by a level. The people watching the battle exchanged glances. They could also tell that Yi Chen had used a horrifying finger art. It had forcibly cut off a part of Lu Wujian's blood and qi, and used another method to attack Lu Wujian. This is unbelievable. Not to mention Lu Wujian, even Yi Chen himself had not expected that his blood-severing ghost finger could display such power, cutting off 5% of his opponent's blood and qi. Moreover, that withered white palm shadow was filled with a deathly aura, which was completely out of place in this world. Of course, the blood-severing ghost finger also depended on who it was used on. If it was used on a body-refining expert like Wei Longtao, it would be good if it could cut off 1/1000th of his blood and qi. This was not only because Wei Longtao had a lot of blood and qi, but also because of the high density of blood and qi of body-refining experts. Therefore, the blood-severing ghost finger would not be able to cut off too much blood and qi. It would be like cutting an iron board with a small knife. Continue to cut for me. After tasting the sweetness brought by the blood-severing ghost finger, Yi Chen was happy to save some of his strength. His left sword finger slashed in the air, and the withered white palm shadow appeared in Lu Wujian's protective Jin Yuan for the second time. Get the hell out of here. Lu Wujian's sky sword intent exploded, attacking the white palm shadow wave after wave. The white palm shadow could ignore Jin Yuan, but it could not ignore the sword intent. Its speed was reduced by a lot all of a sudden. Just as it took out a small portion of blood and qi from Lu Wujian's body, it was washed away by the sword intent, disappearing from Lu Wujian's sight along with the blood and qi. This time, the blood-severing ghost finger had only taken out 1% of the blood and qi, which was much worse than the last time. It turns out that the blood-severing ghost finger consumes soul power as well. Yi Chen suddenly realized that losing a portion of his soul power did not attract his attention at all. It was as if it had merged into the blood-severing ghost finger in a way that he could not understand. Only then did it have all sorts of miraculous effects, such as stealing the enemy's blood and qi out of thin air. Yi Chen, you will pay for this. With half of his blood and qi gone, Lu Wujian was extremely furious. He clenched his left hand into a fist, which was shining with a golden light, and threw out a punch towards Yi Chen. Boom! This punch even caused the tornado to show signs of collapsing. The fist might was vast and mighty. It's a secret art. Yi Chen could tell with a single glance that the fist art Lu Wujian had performed was not a profound sense martial art, but a secret art. It was a super powerful art that could compress the fist power by several times, or even 10 times. Void-shattering finger. The sword fingers on his left hand changed as he reached out his index finger. Yi Chen pointed out his finger towards that golden fist, which was shining with a golden light. It was the void-shattering finger that he rarely used. However, this void-shattering finger had obviously reached completion, reaching 100%. Plus, it was the third movement of the void-shattering finger, which was much more powerful than the second movement of Chu Zhongtian's void-shattering finger. The cyan finger power ignored the spatial distance and clashed with the golden fist power. Pop! At the beginning of the clash, it should be the golden fist power that had the upper hand. However, the void-shattering finger was a space-profound martial art, which was good at assimilating energy. Although the golden fist power had suppressed it, a lot of its power had been assimilated, and it was gradually weakened. Under this kind of situation, the cyan finger power and the golden fist power had both perished. Up until now, both of them had almost used all of their trump cards, but neither of them could do anything to the other. Although Yi Chen's blood-severing ghost finger was powerful, it consumed a lot of soul power, so it could not be used frequently. Plus, Lu Wujian's Sky Sword Intent had reached rank 5. If he was prepared, the effect of the blood-severing ghost finger would be minimal. Unless he could improve it further, it would not have much of an effect. Knowing that other attacks would not be able to do anything to the other, the two continued to exchange attacks. The situation had instantly reached its climax. The roaring tornado had sucked up all the water in the Nine-Dragon Lake, bringing it up into the sky before falling down again, causing a heavy rain to fall from the Nine-Dragon Mountain. I don't believe that you can block many of my attacks. Gnashing his teeth, Lu Wujian dashed towards Yi Chen, shortening the distance between them and increasing the effect of his attacks. Unexpectedly, Yi Chen did not choose to keep the distance. Instead, he dashed towards his opponent, waving his sword over and over again. It's close combat now. I'm afraid the winner will be decided soon. Everyone held their breaths. Boom! 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 As the distance got closer, the effect of the attacks was not just a little bit stronger, but doubled or tripled. Both of their defenses seemed to be unable to handle it, and their blood and qi started to churn. Lose. Lu Wujian used all of his power and threw out a sword attack. A blood-colored ocean and endless blood-colored sword shadows attacked towards Yi Chen. Yi Chen's gold hurricane was not as powerful as his opponent's, but it was much more condensed. At such a close distance, the ripple of light pierced through the blood-colored world and hit Lu Wujian's protective Zhen Yuan. On the other hand, he had also been hit by the blood-colored sword shadows countless times. With a muffled snort, both of them were blown back for miles. Again. The two of them did not care about anything else as they continued to attack without any defense. They only hoped that their attacks could land on their opponent's body. As for whether they would be hit or not, it did not matter at all. Boom! Within a blink of an eye, Lu Wujian had been hit by 3 sword attacks, while Yi Chen had been hit by 2. Lu Wujian let out a fishy smell from his throat, while Yi Chen's face had turned a lot paler. Although Lu Wujian's defense was very high, he could not handle countless attacks. However, Yi Chen was able to handle his attacks, which surprised him greatly. However, when he saw the white bone layer on Yi Chen's palm, he realized that the latter must have used some kind of secret art to increase his physical defense. Let's see how long you can last. Lu Wujian continued to fight with Yi Chen. However, as time passed, Lu Wujian was horrified to discover that he was starting to feel like he couldn't hold on much longer. On the other hand, Yi Chen was still as brave as ever. It was as if the countless small injuries he had accumulated didn't affect him in the slightest, and had long since healed. How is this possible? Lu Wujian could not understand it at all. As for the people who were watching the battle, they were already numb to it. Chapter 7:11. Chu Zhongtian was one of them. The reason he was able to notice this detail was mainly because of his high defense. Therefore, he paid a lot of attention to it. However, he realized that no matter if it was Lu Wujian or Yi Chen, their endurance was way beyond his. Lu Wujian was still fine, since he had a semi-extreme rank armor and accessories, and his cultivation base was also at peak level late Sea of Soul's realm. His protective Zhen Yuan was extremely powerful, but Yi Chen only had a semi-extreme rank armor, and his cultivation base was also at peak level mid Sea of Soul's realm. Even if he had a secret art to increase his defense, his defense should still be weaker than Lu Wujian's. However, judging from the current situation, Yi Chen's endurance was way beyond Lu Wujian's. Lu Wujian was almost at his limit, while Yi Chen was still as powerful as ever. Even if I have a semi-extreme rank armor, I don't think I can win against him. For the school to be able to get a semi-extreme rank armor for Chu Zhongtian, it had already cost a lot of manpower and resources. Semi-extreme rank armor was extremely rare, and one might not be able to buy it even if one had spirit stones. Only those super auctions with countless treasures would have a chance. Therefore, the inner armor Chu Zhongtian was wearing was only a top of the upper rank armor. If he had a semi-extreme rank armor, Gu Lai would not have been able to wound him at all. Although it was only a light wound, it would not be a big deal. However, even if he had a semi-extreme rank armor and had the same power as Yi Chen, Chu Zhongtian did not have the confidence to exchange hundreds of attacks with Yi Chen. Lu Wujian was an example. Yi Chen's trump cards were far more than what they showed on the surface. If one thought that Yi Chen only had power, then one would be wrong. His scariness was in all aspects, and he had no weakness at all. If he wanted to attack, he had it, and if he wanted to defend, he had it. Even his recovery ability was a level higher than others. The more Lu Wujian fought, the more frightened and desperate he became. Yi Chen's ferocious performance was not fake, and it could be seen from his abundant essence qi. On the other hand, Lu Wujian had used up a lot of his essence qi. His whole body was aching, and even his bones were groaning. I can't go on like this. He still has at least 30% Jin Yuan left. If he takes some Jin Yuan replenishing pellets, it would not be a problem for him to recover to 40%. I cannot outlast him. Lu Wujian's expression was gloomy as he thought to himself. Unfortunately, he had still underestimated Yi Chen. Yi Chen had a whole bottle of semi-extreme rank pellets on him, which were enough to recover his Jin Yuan to 100%. Of course, one pellet would be one less, and Yi Chen would not use them on Lu Wujian. After all, he still had a Dragon God medal, which stored 30% of his Jin Yuan, which would allow him to recover to 60%. He did not need to worry about running out of Jin Yuan at all. Boom! After another exchange, Lu Wujian felt a sweetness in his throat. He could not help but spurt out a mouthful of blood, but he forcefully suppressed it. Increase the distance. Lu Wujian did not want to exchange another attack with Yi Chen at such a close distance. He was sure that he would definitely spurt out blood and suffer from severe injuries. Shoo! As his figure turned, Lu Wujian retreated in a curve. Each time he reached a turning point, he would leave behind a clear human figure. However, this figure would not even last for a second before it would be pierced through by the light ripple, disappearing into thin air. It would almost injure Lu Wujian's body. Such a marvelous movement art. Yi Chen could tell that Lu Wujian would be able to increase his speed at each turning point and escape first, causing his attack to miss. This way, there was no pattern at all, unless he could determine the opponent's retreating route and speed. However, even if he could, it would be useless, since his attack speed would only be slightly faster than the opponent's retreating speed, and he would not be able to catch it unless he used his defensive sword art. Let's see what's going on first. To be honest, Yi Chen did not want to expose his defensive sword art until the last moment. Lu Wujian was the only one who could be evenly matched with him, which was something that even Duge Ju could not compare with. Yi Chen had a premonition that his opponent might have a trump card that he would not expose easily, just like him. Yi Chen's guess was right. Lu Wujian did have a trump card, but he would not use it unless it was the most crucial moment. Firstly, there was no opponent worthy of him using his trump card. Secondly, once his trump card was exposed, it would no longer be a trump card. All his strength would be deduced by others, and there would be no secrets to speak of. This was not what Lu Wujian wanted to see. But now, he had no choice but to use his trump card. Yi Chen's strength was beyond his expectations. If he continued to fight, the possibility of him losing was very high. He could not tolerate losing to Yi Chen. Therefore, he had to expose his trump card. There was no other choice. After retreating for about 10 miles, Lu Wujian stopped and stood steadily at the edge of the hurricane. Seeing that Yi Chen did not chase after him, Lu Wujian took a few rapid breaths, suppressing his boiling qi and blood and chaotic Jin Yuan. Yi Chen, you should be honored. You are the first person in many years who could force me to use my strongest trump card. No one else is worthy. Lu Wujian said in shock. What? Lu Wujian still has a trump card? Is he going to let us live? This is too exaggerated. The previous battles were already earth-shattering. Now that he has used his strongest trump card, it would be even worse. This time, Yi Chen is in danger. His trump card is not as good as his. When two people with similar strength could not decide the winner, they could only use their trump cards to decide the winner. It could be said that the trump card was every warrior's last resort, and they could not afford to lose it. This was also the reason why they would not easily expose their trump cards. Once they were exposed, there would be no more secrets left. Lu Wujian still has a trump card. Does Yi Chen have a trump card? Could it be the defensive sword art? Situ Hao looked at Yi Chen. It's not possible. Even if Yi Chen had trained the defensive sword art to the 3rd level, it would not be that powerful. His previous strength had already surpassed the 3rd level of the defensive sword art. Unless he could train to the legendary 72 simultaneous swords realm, but the time is too short. Within 2 years, it would be impossible for him to train to the 72 simultaneous swords realm. In history, that legendary swordsman who had reached this realm had spent dozens of years to do so. What could he do in 2 years? He subconsciously thought that Yi Chen's trump card was the defensive sword art. But after thinking about it, he felt that the 3rd level of the defensive sword art was not very useful. The two's battle strength was too high, and the defensive sword art was not useful at all. You should be honored that you could last until now. Next, I will use my trump card to fight against yours. With Lu Wujian's current strength, he naturally could not force Yi Chen to use the defensive sword art. However, once the opponent showed his trump card, Yi Chen would have to use it. He did not think that the opponent's trump card was not threatening at all. It might have the power to wound him badly. Yi Chen also has a trump card. Everyone was dumbfounded, and they could not say a word. No matter who won or lost, everyone was convinced by Yi Chen. The battle strength that Yi Chen had shown was definitely at the level of a sword master. It could be said that some people had doubted Yi Chen's title of sword master before. After all, it was made up by the knowledge pavilion, and it was different from seeing it with their own eyes. But now, they did not doubt it at all. On the contrary, if someone doubted it, they would definitely refute it. The title of sword master in the continent belonged to Yi Chen. Phew! Duguju let out a long breath, and his tense nerves relaxed. I am not a match for them now. There is no need to fight. Not knowing that the two still had trump cards, although Duguju did not think that he would win, he still had a chance. Yi Chen, do not disappoint me. Between Lu Wujian and Yi Chen, Duguju would naturally lean towards Yi Chen. After all, Yi Chen was also a sword artist of the continent, while Lu Wujian was from the West Ocean. The purpose of this trip was to beat all of the martial geniuses of the continent and look down on all of them. Lu Wujian's expression changed, and he looked serious again. All right. I did not expect that you would be like me, still having trump cards. But, once I use my secret sword, even I will not be able to control myself. By then, I might kill you. Don't blame me for being cruel. Lu Wujian was not lying. He indeed could not control his secret sword completely. Most importantly, Yi Chen was too powerful. He was afraid that if he held back, he might lose. Don't worry. Once I use my defensive sword spell, I might be able to kill you as well. Let's fight with everything we have. Yi Chen put away his thunder disaster sword, and there was no sword in his hands. Is it really the defensive sword spell? Situ Hao's eyes were wide open as he stared at Yi Chen. He would like to see how different Yi Chen's defensive sword spell was from his. The two top sword masters stood in the air, facing each other. Outside, the tornado was still roaring. One was quiet, while the other was moving. The whole world seemed to have stopped. Boom! Boom! The two rushed toward each other at the same time. That horrifying chi explosion was something that even the tornado could not cover up. Secret sword, 3 sky sword chi. Defensive sword spell, 3 sword attacks. It was unknown if it was a coincidence, but the two super powerful killing attacks were all related to the word 3. Lu Wujian's 3 sky sword chi was 3 different colored sword chi, green, blue, and red. Each of them contained a different profound. The green sword chi contained the profound of wind, the blue one contained the profound of water, and the red one contained the profound of blood. Do not look down on these 3 sword chi, as they were not only profound martial arts, but also secret arts. Normally, secret arts would not contain pure profound. Once they did, their power would increase exponentially. The 3 different colored sword chi attacked toward Yi Chen, full of killing power. At the same time, the gold sword on Yi Chen's back had also taken out of its scabbard. It shook in the air and split into 2 Jin Yuan gold swords. 3 gold swords shot out toward the 3 sword chi. Pooh! Pooh! The green sword chi and the red sword chi exploded and were shattered by the Jin Yuan gold sword. The blue sword chi in the middle could not even withstand a single attack from the original gold sword. It turned into a wisp of blue smoke and disappeared without even making a sound. What? Not good. Lu Wujian's eyes popped out. The 3 sky sword chi that he had been so confident in had been destroyed by Yi Chen's 3 sword attacks. How could he not be shocked? Without any other thoughts, Lu Wujian's next thought was to focus on defense. He did not believe that his 2 layers of defense would not be able to block out the 3 sword attacks that had been weakened by a lot. Lu Wujian's 2 layers of defense were indeed extremely powerful. After breaking through the semi-extreme rank accessories dark blue layer, the Jin Yuan gold sword disappeared. However, the original gold sword's power was 3 times that of the Jin Yuan gold sword, which was way more powerful. Swoosh! The first layer of defense had been pierced through, and so had the second layer. The original gold sword turned into a beam of gold light, shooting toward Lu Wujian's neck. At the moment of life and death, Lu Wujian's neck twisted, and the gold sword brushed past it without touching him at all. But, in the next second, a huge amount of blood poured out of his neck. His main artery had been cut open by the sword chi, and the blood would not stop flowing out. Yi Chen's defensive sword spell had already reached beyond the Sea of Souls realm. Chapter 7:12. The gold light flashed, and blood shot out like a fountain. It was breathtaking, and the killing intent was overwhelming. Yi Chen's 3 sword attack had sent chills down everyone's spines. Lu Wujian's 3 sky sword chi was already powerful enough to kill most of the top master level warriors within seconds. Even Duguju would be severely wounded if he were to fight against it. However, the 3 sky sword chi was even more powerful. Yi Chen's 3 sword attacks were way more powerful than the 3 sky sword chi. With just one touch, Lu Wujian had been wounded like never before. Gu Lai and the lady in colorful clothes were shocked. From the beginning to the end, they had never thought that Lu Wujian would lose. It was hard for them to accept this. Hiss. Impossible. I have also reached the realm of 3 sword attacks. Why is there such a huge difference? Situ Hao's eyeballs popped out. Without using his sword intent, Situ Hao thought that Yi Chen's 3 sword attacks would not be that much more powerful than his. Perhaps, Yi Chen might not even be as skilled as him. However, right now, Yi Chen's 3 sword attacks had thrown him dozens of streets away. Even if his opponent's sword intent was way more powerful than his, it should not be this powerful. Soul power. Yes, it was soul power. Situ Hao suddenly realized that Yi Chen must be a soul power warrior. If Chu Zhongtian was the most powerful body, then Yi Chen might be the most powerful soul. Otherwise, there would be no other explanation for the horrifying defensive sword spell. The defensive sword spell required the control of soul power. Smiling bitterly, Situ Hao suddenly felt a bit regretful. No wonder his opponent was willing to exchange the defensive sword spell with him. It turned out that he was a soul power warrior. For soul power warriors, the defensive sword spell was created for them, which made it invaluable. However, after thinking about it for a while, Situ Hao felt better. So what if he did not give the defensive sword spell to Yi Chen? It would still be hard for him to catch up to him. If that was the case, he might as well enjoy it. At least, he had gotten 6 dragon blood plants, which had increased his strength by 300,000 pounds. He now had the same power as a body training warrior. Besides that, the spiritual sword had also helped him understand the fast profound, which would be very useful for his future growth. Lu Wujian lost. So it turns out that Yi Chen's last ace card is the same as Situ Hao's, the defensive sword art. A powerful warrior is indeed a powerful warrior. Although the defensive sword art in Situ Hao's hands is also powerful, it is still not as powerful as Yi Chen's. Yi Chen is indeed a sword master. Whatever it is in his hands, it will explode with a bright light. That's for sure. Looking back at Yi Chen's path of advancement, it was absolutely astonishing. He overcame all obstacles along the way, won every battle, and never suffered a single defeat until he reached the top. Such a terrifying speed of improvement is probably rare even in the early period of the Near Ancient Era. After the exclamation, everyone had already regarded Yi Chen as a legendary figure. Chi, blood was still pouring out of the wound on Lu Wujian's neck. A lot of people were wondering if he would die at this rate. Of course, if it were an ordinary martial artist, he would have died long ago. However, after cultivating to the Sea of Soul realm and condensing a spirit body, the blood density of an ordinary Sea of Soul realm expert was many times higher than an ordinary martial artist. Without any exaggeration, the blood of an ordinary Sea of Soul realm expert could fill several water jars, not to mention an expert like Lu Wujian. Bastard! With a deathly pale complexion, Lu Wujian swiped his neck with his left hand, immediately closing the wound. However, the next moment, it split open again, and blood continued to spurt out. The cause of all this was the remnant sword chi of the golden sword. This sword chi contained the destruction sword intent, which didn't dissipate for a long time. It seemed as if it wouldn't rest until its target was destroyed. Break! Biting on the tip of his tongue, Lu Wujian yelled with an evil look on his face. Who? The sky sword intent poured out, clashing with the destructive sword intent. Although the destructive sword intent was powerful, it was still rootless after all. It could not last for long, and was soon removed. Once the destructive sword intent disappeared, the wound on Lu Wujian's neck started to close up, and blood stopped pouring out. Everyone was not surprised that Lu Wujian was still alive, since Sea of Souls realm warriors had a very powerful life force. Cutting off the main artery sounded horrifying, but it would only make the warrior die from blood loss. If the bleeding could be stopped, then the warrior would not die for sure. Yi Chen did not continue to attack. If he really wanted to kill the latter, he would not have waited until now. Yi Chen. With the wound on his neck closed up, Lu Wujian's expression looked extremely cold. Before running into Yi Chen, he had never been defeated before. He had always won with ease. This time, he had even used his 3 sky sword chi, but still lost to Yi Chen. Yi Chen had broken his undefeated record. While he was alarmed, he was also extremely angry and unwilling. Do you still want to fight? Yi Chen's expression was indifferent. Back in White Cloud Restaurant, it was mostly the multicolor-robed woman who provoked him. Therefore, he could remain calm. It was best that Murong Qingsheng had helped him deal with the trouble. Not being angry didn't mean that he would remain indifferent. His counterattack was not something that ordinary people could endure. His attack was like a clap of thunder, leaving the opponent with an unforgettable memory. Humph! Lu Wujian coldly snorted. He naturally wouldn't continue fighting. Not to mention whether he was Yi Chen's opponent or not, he only had 30% of his battle power left. His condition was unprecedentedly low. The mountains will not change, and the rivers will flow forever. You can be proud for a moment, but not for a lifetime. The path ahead of me is still very long. At that time, I'll make you pay the price. Lu Wujian was already at the peak of Late Sea of Soul Realm. He never doubted that he would be unable to step into Half-Step King Realm. Once he did, his strength would increase by several folds. Ordinary Half-Step Kings would not be his opponent, not to mention Yi Chen. After all, Yi Chen's cultivation base was only at the peak of Mid-Sea of Soul Realm, far from Half-Step King Realm. Wait until you become a Half-Step King. Words won't help you improve. Yi Chen's expression didn't change. By the time his opponent became a Half-Step King, his cultivation base would also be at the peak of Late Sea of Soul Realm. Experiencing the state of being one with the world would allow his profound to advance by leaps and bounds, and he might even be able to cultivate Golden Hurricane to greater completion. Although his soul power wouldn't increase after entering Late Sea of Soul Realm, and thus wouldn't be able to directly increase the offensive power of Sword Control Art, the might of Sword Control Art had only just begun. Later, there would be 5 swords, 7 swords, 9 swords, 49 swords, 81 swords, and even the Supreme 100 swords. At that time, even he himself couldn't estimate how much his strength would grow. Let's go. Lu Wujian knew that it was useless to say anything at this moment. A loss was a loss. Only by defeating the opponent in the future could he redeem his dignity. Let's go. Gu Lai let out a deep breath and fearfully glanced at Yi Chen before leaving with the multicolor-robed woman, chasing after Lu Wujian. Before leaving, the multicolor-robed woman was somewhat apprehensive, fearing that Yi Chen would look for trouble with her. This person was too frightening. Once the 3 left, Yi Chen slightly calmed his blood and qi and recalled the previous battle. Without a doubt, Lu Wujian's strength was extremely astonishing. Without using sword control art, he could only rely on his undying body to suppress his opponent and slowly exhaust him to death. As his cultivation base increased, he increasingly felt the reliability of the undying body. Although the undying body couldn't directly increase his strength, it was much better than directly increasing his strength. Even if his opponent was stronger than him, he wouldn't need to be afraid. If they were to truly fight to the death, the victor and the loser were still unknown. Unfortunately, he still couldn't comprehend the second layer of the undying body, limb regrowth. Once he comprehended it, as long as his head was fine, the rest of his body could rapidly regrow. His survivability would increase tenfold, and even if he encountered an opponent he couldn't match, he would have a high chance of escaping with his life. However, he wasn't anxious. He had a premonition that once he broke through to Late Sea of Soul Realm, he would have the qualifications to comprehend limb regrowth. In the boundless void, there was no sign of life. At the far end of the void, a colossus was rapidly approaching. From a close distance, this colossus seemed like a small plane. Its periphery was slightly transparent, and one could vaguely see the mountains and rivers inside, as well as the huge building at the center. The small plane's speed was extremely fast, and it was followed by a row of gray chi waves. As the chi waves surged, even the spatial power in the void was pushed aside. Even if a half-step king were careless and brushed by the gray chi waves, they would turn into ashes, leaving not even a corpse behind. According to the direction and speed of the small plane, it would arrive in the sky of Sky Marshal region in about a month. As the small plane approached, the finger hole left behind by Four Extremes' great emperor flickered, seemingly sensing an invisible aura. A subtle connection was established between the two. At the border of North Sea and True Spirit continent, a figure was rapidly approaching. Wherever it went, it left behind runes condensed from Jin Yuan, flickering and flickering, looking extremely mysterious. Swish! The figure suddenly stopped moving and stood in the void. This was a young man with a jade-like complexion, sword-like eyebrows, and starry eyes. In between his eyebrows, there was a glazed rune. This rune wasn't just for show. It allowed the young man to have an unfathomable connection with the world, as if he was one with the world. I've arrived at True Spirit continent. This is my first time here. The young man's gaze swept through the surroundings. The surrounding islands and seawater were no secret to him. His gaze seemed to be able to see through everything. Courting death. His gaze slightly paused, and the young man sneered. Kill. Hundreds of martial artists flew over from all directions. The lowest realm was at the astral reaching realm, while the highest was at the peak of late Sea of Soul realm. This was a gang force. To be more precise, it was the biggest pirate force at the border between North Ocean and True Spirit continent. They specialized in killing passing experts and robbing their wealth. Encountering them, even a peak master would have to flee in panic, not daring to face them head-on. Another fat sheep has arrived. The leader of the pirates was an ugly man with a full beard. This month, they had already killed 7 or 8 Sea of Soul realm experts. The strongest among them was a Sea of Soul master, who had a bit of fame in the continent. However, if they ran into the Black Murder bandits, they would only be dead. Kill for me. Without saying any nonsense, the Black Slaughter bandits waved their hands, ordering their subordinates to attack together and kill the other party. Courting death. A cold light flickered in the young man's eyes. With a slap of his hand, a glazed palm energy condensed into a twisting rune, bombarding the group on the right. Pucci. The might of the palm energy turned into a rune was too powerful. At least 30 to 40 people were turned into flesh and blood, their bodies igniting and turning into ashes. So powerful. The Black Slaughter bandit's pupils shrank. While he was in a daze, the young man had killed more than 200 Black Slaughter bandits in succession. As for the Black Slaughter bandits' attacks, they couldn't even touch his body, as they were all evaded by an unfathomable movement skill. There's a troublesome opponent. Retreat. As the Black Slaughter bandit spoke, he had already turned around to flee. You think you can escape? With a few flickers, the young man caught up to the Black Slaughter bandit's back. Extending his palm, he easily shattered the bandit's protective Jin Yuan and grabbed his head. Mercy! The Black Slaughter bandit's face turned pale. Pucci! The young man's 5 fingers tightened. Starting from the bandit's head, a glazed flame ignited and soon turned him into ashes. Chapter 713. Run! When the remaining members of the Black Murder bandits saw that even their leader had been killed, how could they not understand that this young man was no lamb to be slaughtered? Instead, he was a ferocious beast, a man-eating ferocious beast. Trying to rob and kill him would be akin to courting death. Each and every one of them wished that their parents had given them an extra pair of legs as they fled for their lives. Lowly ants. The young man didn't chase. These people were not worth chasing. Collecting the Black Slaughter bandit chief's storage ring, the youngster casually threw it into his own storage ring and looked in the direction of the True Spirit continent. I've been in the North Sea for a long time, but I've only been to the deep sea behind the North Sea. I wonder if there's anyone on this True Spirit continent who can withstand 10 moves from me. After standing still for a while, a colorful symbol appeared around the young man's body. The symbol rotated slightly, carrying him as he shot out like a flickering light. Too frightening. As soon as the young man left, 2 Sea of Soul Realm experts appeared 100 li away. They were originally scared, afraid of being attacked by the Black Slaughter bandits. But, who would have thought that they would personally witness the destruction of the Black Slaughter bandits, and the one who did it was a very young man. This person's strength is world-shaking. I'm afraid he is the strongest below Half-Step King. I don't know where he came from. I've never seen him before. Elysium is full of hidden dragons and crouching tigers. Moreover, we're facing a great era. There are many more geniuses and opportunities than before. Although the two of us have already passed the age of rapid growth, it doesn't mean that we don't have any opportunities. On the contrary, this is our chance. You're right. The Great Era is our chance. It had only been a week since the battle in the Nine-Dragon Lake, but Yi Chen's name of Sword Master had spread throughout the whole Sky Martial region. Adding on his previous fame, the current Yi Chen was like the sun in the sky. Some of the martial schools even used Yi Chen as a role model for their disciples. Just like before, everyone said that Xian Ho was the #1 martial genius in 1,000 years. Right now, Yi Chen seemed to be able to inherit that title. Of course, it was only a trend. As long as Yi Chen did not reach the life and death realm, he would not be able to compete with Xian Ho. Since the ancient times, countless martial geniuses had stopped at the Sea of Souls realm and Half-Step King realm. No one could be sure that Yi Chen would be able to become a life and death realm warrior. All they could say was that he had the most potential. Yi Chen was way too powerful, so the pavilion did not have to wait for the next month to announce him as the #1 warrior of this year's Master Level Warrior ranking. Plus, the introduction had already been written out, which would be Sword Master Yi Chen or something like that. It would be the same as confirming Yi Chen's identity as the Sword Master, instead of just giving him the title. Adding this year's ranking, Yi Chen had occupied the first rank for 3 consecutive years. His position was as stable as a mountain, unshakable. After renting a luxurious yard in a nearby city, Yi Chen and Murong Qingqing settled in. There were mountains and rivers in the yard, which was very spacious. Beside the green water, Yi Chen was training his defensive sword spell. After battling with Lu Wujian, Yi Chen had revealed his last ace attack, which was almost no secret at all. It was not what he wanted. Right now, the most urgent thing was to train his defensive sword spell's 3-sword attack to the 5-sword attack realm, which would stabilize his ace attack a little bit. Shoo! 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 Above the green water, 3 beams of gold light were flying around. Occasionally, 5 shadows could be seen, which was a sign that the 3-sword attack was about to reach the 5-sword attack realm. Once it reached the 5-sword attack realm, although the pure attacking power would not increase that much, the battling power would increase by at least 5 to 10%. For example, Lu Wujian's 3 sky sword chi was 3 beams of sword chi. If he used 3 sword attacks at the same time, he would not be able to do anything to his opponent. But, it would be different with the 5-sword attack realm, which would have 2 more attacks than his opponent. In the end, it was just a matter of quantity and quality. If there was enough quality, then there would be quantity. If there was enough quantity, then there would be quality. Both were very important, and it would be best to have the best of both worlds. However, the imperial sword technique was getting more and more difficult to cultivate. Although the 3 simultaneous swords and the 5 simultaneous swords did not seem to have much of a difference, it had already been 2 to 3 months. Furthermore, he had yet to succeed in cultivating it. It would probably take a long time for him to cultivate the 7 simultaneous swords and the 9 simultaneous swords. Of course, if he reached the late Sea of Souls realm, it would be a lot easier. After all, training the defensive sword spell required a lot of comprehension as well as Jin Yuan realm. With a high Jin Yuan realm, it would be easier to improve. If he reached the life and death realm, he would be able to train 49 sword attacks in one day. Yi Chen believed that. A couple of days passed in a flash, and Yi Chen had new insights every day. He felt that it was getting smoother and smoother, as if everything was going smoothly. Go! Pointing out his sword finger, Yi Chen yelled with a low voice. Chin! 3 beams of gold light shot out. For a split second, they split into 5 beams, but then shrank back into 3. Almost there. Yi Chen was very clear that he did not need to train hard anymore. The 5-sword attack realm was definitely going to happen. Boom! There was an ancient mountain range in the Sky Martial region. On this day, an earth-shattering sound was heard in the sky above the savage mountain range. After that, it was followed by lightning, thunder, wind, and fire, as well as hailstones and snowflakes. Do not look down on these strange phenomena. The lightning was not normal lightning, but the void lightning created by the friction of the space power. The wind storm was the void wind, and the fire was the void fire. Meanwhile, the hailstones and snowflakes were also tainted with the void power. All of these powers could turn a huge amount of half-step king warriors into ashes. Normal life and death realm warriors would also suffer from serious internal injuries if they were hit by it, which would cost their cultivation. Along with the appearance of the strange phenomenon, a huge vibration spread out in all directions with the Sky Martial region as the center. The sky, the lake, and the ground were all channels for the vibration. It would be hard not to feel it. The speed of the vibration could no longer be described as the speed of sound. It could travel hundreds of thousands of miles within a second, and the ground was shaking like there was an earthquake. What is happening? What is happening? Earthquake. All of a sudden, every city, every town, every village, every lone traveler in the wild, and every powerful warrior who was training in seclusion, everyone could feel that the ground was shaking violently, and the air was vibrating intensely. Waves of wind were blowing everywhere. This vibration is not normal. A powerful warrior walked out of his seclusion and came outside. He closed his eyes and tried to sense the source of the vibration. But, he realized that the source was very far away, and he could not sense it at all. Mysterious martial school. Beside the floating mountain, a young lady lifted up her head and looked in the direction of the mountain range. Her eyes seemed to be able to see through layers of surreal space and see the end of the world. Looking back, the young lady reached out her hand and caught a strand of space power. She sensed it carefully and mumbled to herself, "This is the violent space power caused by a small plane crashing into the space wall. It should be a moving forbidden place appearing. Oh well, I will send Feng to check it out first." Inside the surreal door, in the depths of the surreal palace, a middle-aged man wearing luxurious clothes and a golden crown opened his eyes. His eyes seemed to contain pieces of surreal space, devouring the heaven and earth. A horrifying scene happened. His pupils slightly shrank, and the surreal space of this world suddenly shrunk. The scenery hundreds of thousands of li away flashed through his eyes. 1,000,000 li, 2,000,000 li, 9,000,000 li. The situation of the savage mountain range fell into his eyes. The forbidden place has appeared. This strand of Qi is the Emperor Qi of Four Extremes Emperor. Four Extremes Emperor was famous throughout the ages. His Emperor Qi was unique and could not be mistaken. Zun-Er's fortune is here. Those old guys should show up now, right? His pupils returning to normal, the luxuriously clothed man's eyes flickered as if he was calculating something. Something that could make him calculate was definitely not something a Sea of Souls realm warrior could stop. Only kings at the same realm could stop him. Evil King Pavilion, Back Mountain Ancient Temple, a young man with long and narrow eyebrows walked out. "Ha, I haven't fought for dozens of years. I wonder how much those guys have improved. Yan Qingxian, you won against me last time, but it might not be the same this time." As the young man walked out, the plants around the ancient temple started to grow strangely. They were filled with evil qi, as if they had turned into monsters. At the end of the eastern sea, there was a space full of holes. Some were big, some were small, some were flat, and some were round. They were constantly changing, and from time to time, a horrifying surreal turbulence would shoot out, as if a huge piece of cheese had been imprinted in the surreal space. In the depths of the space, a white-haired old man sat cross-legged with his eyes closed. There was no sign of him waking up. However, the death chi on his body was gradually decreasing, and his vitality was increasing. He no longer looked like a rotten tree, but an old tree in the spring. At the same time, all the kings in the Sky Martial region felt it. Their eyes flickered as they calculated with different expressions. As for the kings outside the Sky Martial region, they did not feel anything. 5 swords at the same time. Yi Chen had felt a huge shock a couple of days ago as well. However, he was patient and did not pay attention to it. Right now, the most important thing was to train the defensive sword spell to the level of 5 swords at the same time. Everything else was secondary. Chin. Yi Chen pointed out with his right hand, and the gold sword turned into a beam of golden light shooting out of its scabbard. The sword chi was unstoppable, and the surreal space shook a little. The gold sword split into 3 and paused for a second. Then, the Zhen Yuan gold swords on the 2 sides also split into 2. 5 swords at the same time. Yi Chen had finally trained it to the level of 5 swords at the same time. Although it was still a bit rough, he had succeeded in the end. Go! He pointed out with his finger, and the 5 beams of golden light pierced through the broken top rank shield in front of him, leaving 5 sword holes on it with smoke rising out of it. It was not over yet. Under the guidance of Yi Chen's soul power, the 5 beams of golden light spread out, dancing and piercing in the air. Each of the swords looked like they were controlled by a powerful sword user. It was impossible to tell that they were made by one person at all, which was quite shocking. Come back. The 5 swords merged into one, and the gold sword was inserted back into the scabbard on Yi Chen's back. I have trained the 5 swords at the same time. I wonder what Murong Qingqing has found out. The shock was not normal. Yi Chen did not go out to ask for information, but Murong Qingqing did. Chapter 7:14. Right at the edge of the Sky Martial region, there was a rank 6 martial institution called the Red Cloud Martial School. The leader of the school was a famous master-level Sea of Souls realm warrior. His red cloud palm art was extremely hot and brutal. Normal Sea of Souls realm warriors would be burned into ashes after taking one palm attack from him. A couple of days ago, a huge vibration was heard from the deep end of the Savage Mountains. He made a quick decision and sent out a third of the elite warriors to search for the source of the vibration. He himself did not stay idle either. He gathered half of the powerful warriors in the school and gave each of them valuable pellets and a couple of thunder fire bombs. Once the news arrived, they would leave immediately. Leader. Outside the Crimson Firmament Hall, a person hurriedly walked in. How is it? What news? Master Red Cloud's eyes shone brightly. It was the master he had sent out to search for the source of the vibration. Sect Master, our Scarlet Firmament Gate's luck has come. In the depths of the Savage Mountain Range, there is a huge moving forbidden area. The moving forbidden area collided with the spatial barrier and stopped, revealing a gap. The heaven and earth yuan qi inside is incomparably dense, and there are spirit herbs and spirit trees everywhere. There are spiritual herbs and spiritual trees everywhere. Master Red Cloud gasped. The moving forbidden place was huge. Obviously, the spirit plants and trees were just side effects. But, it was still shocking enough. Good. Luck has come, and you can't stop it. You take us to the source of the vibration. Once it is done, we will try our best to help you reach Late Sea of Souls realm. You will be rewarded as well. Yes. Thank you, leader. The man looked excited. He had been stuck at peak level Mid Sea of Souls realm for decades. He had been affected by his potential and comprehensive ability. If he wanted to reach Late Sea of Soul's realm, it would take him at least a few decades of hard work. But, with the full support of the Red Cloud Martial School, it would not be hard for him to reach Late Sea of Soul's realm. The Savage Mountain Range was not big, and it could not be compared to the Savage Mountain Range of the northern sector. It was only a small part of the primordial Savage Mountain Range, but the experts of the Scarlet Heaven sect still spent 3 days to reach the depths of the Savage Mountain Range. Raising their heads, everyone saw a shocking scene. Unbeknownst to them, a huge gap had appeared in the sky several hundred meters above them. This gap was polygonal in shape, with the widest part being over 100 meters, and the narrowest part being 7 to 8 meters. The edges of the gap were filled with cracks, imprinted in the air. Below the gap was a huge pit that stretched for an unknown distance, and at the edge of the pit were cracked crystals of various colors. Looking into the gap, Master Qi Zhao's breathing suddenly became rapid. Rich natural energy was constantly gushing out from the gap. Inside the gap, different kinds of spirit grasses were growing everywhere. Every few meters, there would be a towering tree. These towering trees were shining brightly, and the fruits on the branches were surrounded by colorful airflows. It wasn't hard to imagine what kind of energy these fruit trees contained. Low grade, middle grade, they are everywhere. There must be high-grade spirit herbs and spirit trees in the deeper parts. This is the fortune of our Crimson Firmament clan. Master Qi Zhao laughed out loud. Not to mention the treasures inside the moving forbidden place, just these spirit herbs and spirit trees would be able to increase the overall power of the Crimson Firmament Martial School to another level. Those spirit herbs could be planted in the medicine garden, and the spirit trees would be able to bear fruits every few years. It would definitely be a huge fortune. Everyone, don't act recklessly. Let me try it out. Master Qi Zhao was the leader of the martial school after all, so he did not let the wealth go to his head. He took out a low-rank great weapon from his storage ring and threw it into the gap. Shoo! The low-rank great weapon turned into a beam of light and smoothly entered the gap. Leader, there is no danger. The master next to him said happily. Master Qi Zhao said, no rush, let's try again. He threw out another low-rank great weapon, but it barely touched the edge of the gap. Swoosh! A crystal-clear thunder light flashed through, and the low-rank great weapon turned into ashes. Taking a deep breath, Master Qi Zhao said emotionally, everyone, follow me in. Remember, don't go near the edge of the gap. Try to go in from the center. Obviously, the energy around the gap was too concentrated. Once something approached, it would sense it and destroy it. Let's go. Master Qi Zhao took the lead and flew into the gap. The protective Zhen Yuan around his body was a fiery red, like a red crystal protective layer. The others followed closely behind. Although he knew that there was no danger in the center of the gap, Master Qi Zhao was still very careful. His protective Zhen Yuan had protected him perfectly. The 1,000 meters distance was covered within a second, and he was about to enter through the gap. Right at this moment. Boom! Boom! The gap, which had no reaction before, started to shake violently. Beams of crystal-clear lightning, flames, and tornadoes shot out from the edge of the gap, interweaving into a perfect fire net. All of the people from the Red Cloud Martial School were caught in the net. Back out! Master Qi Zhao's face turned pale as he yelled. Unfortunately, it was too late. The fire net had turned all of the powerful warriors he had brought into ashes, and even he puked out a few mouthfuls of blood. Bastard! Master Qi Zhao's eyes were bloodshot. Those were half of the powerful warriors from the Red Cloud Martial School, but they had all been turned into ashes within a second. After this battle, the Red Cloud Martial School's power had shrunk by half, turning from a top-rank 6 martial school to a mid-rank 6 martial school. And this was only because of him. Boom! Boom! Lightning, fire, and tornadoes landed on his protective Zhen Yuan, making him look like he had been struck by lightning. Blood started to flow out of all of his orifices. No, I cannot die. As long as I do not die and find enough treasures in the forbidden place, the Red Cloud Martial School will be able to continue to grow. I might even be able to become a half-step king warrior. By then, the Red Cloud Martial School will be even more powerful than right now. Suppressing his pain, he did not back out. Instead, he moved forward and was about to enter the gap. Boom! A pile of crystal-clear fireball landed on his body, burning him into ashes immediately. The broken top-rank weapon and storage ring were sucked into the crack on the edge of the gap, disappearing without a trace. All of the powerful warriors from the Red Cloud Martial School had been killed. A couple of days later, the second group of guests arrived at the Savage Mountains. There were only 5 people in the second group, 1 young man, 3 middle-aged men, and 1 elder. The young man was wearing gold robes and a gold crown, looking extremely aggressive. He was indeed the head disciple of the Surreal Martial School, Xia Hozuan. The 3 middle-aged men were all master-level Sea of Souls realm warriors. One of them was the headmaster of the school, the Axe Master. The last elder in yellow robes seemed to be the leader of the 5. He had a powerful body and was as steady as a mountain. Great Master, should we go in? One of the 3 middle-aged men said to the elder in yellow, looking very respectful. This gap is not simple. The edge of the gap contains the surreal power, which can explode with surreal lightning, fire, and wind. If the defense is not strong enough, going in will only lead to death. You guys follow me closely. If anything goes wrong, retreat immediately. The elder in yellow was one of the great masters of the school, at the half-step king warrior level. His power was unpredictable, and he was the leader of this operation. Let's go in then. Xia Hozuan's eyes shone with a bright light. The grave of the 4 extreme emperor was his fortune, and it was also the key for him to reach the half-step king warrior level earlier. Alright, let's go in. The elder in yellow was not afraid of the surreal power at all. With a flash, he flew toward the gap. The 4 followed behind him. Boom! Boom! As expected, the sparkling and translucent lightning, flames, and storms sensed a powerful source of energy approaching and immediately erupted with dazzling radiance. Ah! Among the 3 middle-aged men, the one who spoke earlier had the lowest defense. He was immediately burned into ashes by a fireball and a lightning bolt. Don't mind him. Go in. The elder in yellow did not have it easy. The surreal power would increase according to the individual's power. Although it would not surpass his own power, it was still not easy to bear. He had to defend with all his heart, and couldn't care less about the people behind him. Shoo! The remaining 4 smoothly entered the gap. Strangely, looking from the outside, there were no 4 people inside the gap. Not long after the 4 left, another group of people arrived. Unfortunately, the strongest among them was only a master-level Sea of Souls realm warrior. They were killed by the surreal power before they could even get close. Soon after, more people arrived, but they were all killed one after another. Those who could successfully enter the gap were few and far between. The next morning, 2 figures appeared on the opposite hill. Their aura was deep and immeasurable. As they blinked, the space around them slightly twisted. They were clearly 2 genuine half-step kings. Ghostwood King, this time, the tomb of 4 extreme emperor has appeared. There will be a lot of half-step kings here. Later on, there will be even more life and death kings. If you and I want to make a fortune, we have to do it now. The one who spoke was a short, dark-skinned elder. He looked like a midget with a pointy mouth. In front of him was a middle-aged man with a wooden face. His skin was not like a human's, but more like a tree's. Go for king, you like to take advantage of others. If you take advantage of me again, I'll break your legs. The middle-aged man said indifferently. The midget elder chuckled, no, not this time. The tomb of 4 Extreme Emperor has so many treasures. Why would I want to take advantage of others? Let's go. I hope you're telling the truth. In a courtyard deep in the mountains of Sky Martial region, a youngster with a crystal symbol on his head arrived. Old Feng, Tian, greets you. The youngster's voice spread out. Soon, the courtyard's gate creaked open. It's Tian, The one who came out was a skinny old man with long hair and fluttering clothes. When he saw the young man, a smile appeared on his face. The youngster said, the tomb of 4 Extreme Emperor has appeared. Master has asked me to go with you. The tomb of 4 Extreme Emperor has appeared. Could that vibration be the sign of its appearance? The skinny elder thought about the vibration a few days ago. Alright, you and I will go together. Nodding his head, the skinny elder casually closed the door of the courtyard and walked out. Walking side by side with the young man, they flew towards the origin of the tremors, the direction of the savage mountain range. Chapter 7:15. Meanwhile, the mysterious martial school, Hell Martial School, Evil King School, and the other top-rank 5 martial schools had all sent their people to the savage mountains. The mysterious martial school was a new school. Before Xianhou became a life and death realm warrior, it was only a rank 6 martial school, which was not as powerful as the other rank 5 martial schools. They did not have that many half-step king warriors and top master level warriors. Therefore, including Yan Feng, there were only 3 of them. Feng, you said that Yi Chen has the power of a half-step king warrior. The one who spoke was a middle-aged lady who looked like she was in her 40s. Her chi was deep like the ocean, impossible to see through. Even when he tried to sense it with his soul power, it was like a whirlpool. Yan Feng nodded, yes, I saw it with my own eyes. The middle-aged lady was the great master of the mysterious martial school, Qing Lu. She was also a half-step king warrior herself, and she had a very high status. She used to be the leader of the mysterious martial school and Xuanhou's teacher. After Xianhou became a life and death realm warrior, she gave up her position to Xianhou while she became the great master herself. Hearing her, Qing Lu thought about it and said, we do not have a lot of people, we can invite him in. Although she was a half-step king warrior, if they ran into people from other parties, she might not be able to make it out, since she was not the only half-step king warrior. Alright. Yan Feng thought about it, then nodded. In the past couple of days, Murong Qingqing did not get any news, since the source of the vibration was too far away from the city they were living in. The two were not in a hurry either, since the Sky Martial region was only this big. They would probably get some news in a couple of days. Yi Chen used this opportunity to continue training his 5 sword attacks, trying to reach the level where he could use them as he wished. On this day, Yan Feng and Qing Lu arrived at the city Yi Chen was living in. Inside the yard, the 5 sat in the pavilion in the middle of the green water. Yi Chen greets Senior Qing Lu. After knowing Qing Lu's identity, Yi Chen was a bit surprised. He had not expected that this person would be Xuanhou's teacher, the former leader of the mysterious martial school. Qing Lu laughed, don't be shy. Qing Xian thinks highly of you. She said that you are the one with the most hope to reach life and death realm within 5 years. 5 years? Senior Yan overestimates Yi Chen. Yi Chen forced a smile. Although he firmly believed that he would be able to reach the life and death realm, he did not have the confidence to do so within 5 years. Qing Lu said, don't look down on Qing Xian's words. Her words will most likely come true. I have seen it many times. Thank you for your auspicious words, Senior Yan. Yi Chen smiled. After taking a sip of the tea, Qing Lu asked, Yi Chen, what rank is your sword intent? Feng said that you have the destruction sword intent, is it true? Yi Chen said, that's right, it's the 5th step destruction sword intent. Although she had already heard about Yi Chen's situation from Yan Feng, but hearing it from Yi Chen himself, Qing Lu was still very surprised. Rank 5 sword intent, and it was the destruction sword intent, its power was equivalent to a normal rank 6 sword intent. It was a level that even most of the life and death realm warriors could not reach. Indeed, the younger generation will surpass the older generation. Qing Xian is one, and so are you. Qing Lu sighed. Yi Chen asked, Senior Qing Lu, what are you here for? Yan Fengfeng answered for Qing Lu, Yi Chen, do you know what is the source of that vibration? I am trying to find some information. What is it? The tomb of the 4 extreme emperor has appeared. The vibration was caused by the moving forbidden place hitting the space wall. Right now, all of the rank 5 martial institutions in the Sky Martial region should know about it. The others will come a bit later. My teacher and I are here to explore the tomb. Therefore, we would like to invite you and Murong to join us. What do you think? The tomb of the 4 extreme emperor. Yi Chen did not think too much as he nodded, all right. He had the 3rd movement of the void-shattering finger art, as well as a white key from the Aries constellation. The tomb of the 4 extreme emperor was his fortune, so naturally, he would not let it go. Even if Senior Qing Lu and Yan Fengfeng did not come to find him, after a while, he would still go. Qing Lu said, this time, the trip to the tomb will be very dangerous. There will be a lot of half-step king warriors joining us. Although some of them might not be able to reach the life and death realm in their lifetime, their power is unpredictable. Therefore, they are always in closed-door training. Therefore, their lives might be in danger. I know. Yi Chen nodded. He was not that far away from the late seas of Soul's realm. It was just that there seemed to be a layer between them that he could not break through. With this opportunity, he might be able to make it. Once he reached the late seas of Soul's realm, even if he ran into a half-step king warrior, he would be able to escape unscathed. As for the weaker half-step king warriors, it would be hard to tell who would win. Murong, what about you? Yi Chen was a bit worried about Murong Qingqing. I will go with you. Murong Qingqing replied. All right then. Although Yi Chen was afraid that Murong Qingqing might be in danger, he knew that Murong Qingqing's survival ability was not weaker than anyone else's. Not only did she have the perfect demi-demon bloodline and demon power, there was also a lot of demon power essence from the Demon King inside her body. With Murong Qingqing's endurance right now, once she used it, it would be even more powerful than before. Just like that, the 5 of them headed toward the Savage Mountains. Before, Qing Lu and Yan Fengfeng were not that powerful. But with Yi Chen and Murong Qingqing, they had become a whole new level stronger. Yan Fengfeng was one of the top 5 warriors in the Master Level Warrior ranking, and Murong Qingqing's demon power Qi was very powerful as well. Adding Yi Chen, who was invincible below the half-step king warrior realm, they would not be weaker than any group of warriors, unless there were 2 half-step king warriors. When they reached the deep end of the Savage Mountains, it was already a week later. Huh, mysterious king, you are here as well. In the distance, 7 human figures flew over. Their qi carried a hint of evil qi, giving people a feeling of being both righteous and evil. Gold Absolute King, if you can come, why can't I? Qing Lu's title was Mysterious King. All of the half-step king warriors were backup life and death realm warriors, so they could be called kings. And the one she called Gold Absolute King was the great master of the Evil King Martial School, the Evil King's teacher uncle. His power was unpredictable, and he used to be her old rival. Shoo! 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 The Gold Absolute King landed on a mountain not far away. He studied Qing Lu and the people next to her, then laughed, 5 of you. Not bad. I thought there were only 3 or 4 of you. Having more people is not always a good thing. What matters is quality, not quantity. Qing Lu said with a smile. There is no use in talking. My Evil King Martial School has always been more powerful than your mysterious martial school. talking about elites, we have more of them. The gold absolute king had not come out for a long time, and no one had mentioned Yi Chen to him. Therefore, he did not know about Yi Chen and what he had done. Right next to the gold absolute king were 6 people, 2 young people, 2 middle-aged people, and 2 old people. Among the 2 young people, Yi Chen actually knew one of them. It was none other than Sheng, who had not shown up for a long time. Right now, Sheng had a blank expression on his face. He did not have that arrogant temperament that he used to have. However, with Yi Chen's eyesight, he could naturally tell that when Sheng saw him, his eyes flickered a little, but strangely, he did not show any expression. For Sheng to be called here, his power must have reached the top master level. I wonder how he made it this far. It was not that Yi Chen was looking down on Sheng. It could only be said that after seeing so many martial geniuses in the Sky Martial region, Yi Chen had already become numb. With Sheng's talent, he might not even be in the top 10. Therefore, the fact that he had the top master level power had surprised him. Right next to Sheng was a young man with embroidery on his face. He looked to be around 25 or 26 years old. He was not as expressionless as Sheng. Instead, he was curiously checking out Yi Chen, giving people a kind of frivolous and carefree look. That might not be the case. Things are different now. We will go first. Qing Lu did not plan to argue with the gold absolute king anymore. She flew towards the gap in the air first. Yi Chen and the other 3 followed right behind her. Rumble. The surreal power at the edge of the gap had sensed a powerful individual power approaching. Beams of surreal lightning, surreal fire, and surreal wind rushed out, attacking the 5. Before this, Qing Lu had already warned the other 3 to be careful of the surreal power. Therefore, the 4 behind her did not panic. They all pushed their protective Zhen Yuan to the limit, and increased their speed instead of slowing down. Be careful. Yi Chen's body flashed once, appearing on the right side of Murong Qingcheng. The attacks around here were very intense. Murong Qingcheng's face was a bit pale as she said, I am fine. Although her protective demon power was very powerful, way more powerful than normal peak-level late seas of Soul's Realm warriors, she did not have a semi-extreme rank armor after all. So, it would not be easy for her to handle the surreal power. The good thing was that she still had the darkness sky cover. The dark profound had a great effect on absorbing the surreal power. As for Yi Chen, his cultivation was not that high, only at peak level mid-seas of Soul's Realm. But, he had the semi-extreme rank armor, the dragon bone defense layer, and the undying body. So, it would be a lot easier for him to handle the surreal power attacks. On the other hand, Yan Fengfeng's real body was a blue phoenix, which was the top of the top rank. Within these 2 years, she had already reached rank 10 from rank 9, which made her one of the most powerful rank 10 beasts. Her body was extremely powerful, and her protective beast power was not any weaker than Murong Qingcheng's protective demon power. Besides that, she had also gotten a semi-extreme rank armor from the Treasure Holy Tower, which made her even more powerful. The most difficult one would be Lin Gaoming, the leader of the mysterious peak, who was not weak at all. He was also at peak level late seas of Soul's Realm. Unfortunately, he did not have a semi-extreme rank armor as well, so he could only use his rich Zhen Yuan to hold on. Blood leaked out of the corner of his mouth. Within a blink of an eye, the 5 had been attacked dozens of times. They managed to enter the gap with difficulty and disappeared without a single death. Wow, no wonder they are so arrogant. The Gold Absolute King wanted to see a joke, but he did not get to see it. Gold Absolute King, these years, the mysterious martial school has been catching up with your evil King martial school. It is natural for them to be arrogant. Another group of people arrived from the distance. This group of people were all wearing black robes. 5 of them had a huge prison word written on their chests. Although the other one did not have it, it was written on his sleeve. He was from the Hell Martial School. The power of the Hell Martial School was even more powerful than the evil King Martial School. The leader of the school was also a king warrior from the same generation as Su King. His cultivation was comparable to the old Dragon King. The Hell King had inherited Jailer's legacy, and was good at sealing. His most powerful martial art was the Sky Hell Sealing Great Art, which was extremely horrifying. Mu Yunhe, who had been with Lin Tian and had a conflict with Yi Chen before, was indeed the head disciple of the Hell Martial School. However, he was not among the six. Punishment King, long time no see. The Gold Absolute King squeezed his eyes. The mysterious King Qing Lu's power was indeed unpredictable. However, compared to the Punishment King, he was more afraid of him. He was an executioner who had mastered a part of the Hell Martial School's sealing art. Fighting against him, even if he won, he would be severely injured. It has been a long time indeed. But now is not the time to talk nonsense. My Hell Martial School will go in first. You people from the evil King Martial School, you better not run into us, and you better not fight with us for anything. Otherwise, I will let you taste my punishment. Who will be the unlucky one? The Gold Absolute King was not someone who would be scared easily, so he said without hesitation. Ha! See you in the forbidden place. The Punishment King laughed out loud and entered the gap. Along the way, one of them puked out blood due to severe injuries. Unfortunately, he did not die. Let's go in as well. The Gold Absolute King led his people into the gap as well. Chapter 7:16. Outside the gap, Yi Chen and the other four could see what was inside. There were spirit plants everywhere, and spirit trees were all over the place. But after entering, they realized that the place they were in had nothing to do with what they were seeing. It was obvious that those sceneries were refracted from the space, and they did not know where they were in the forbidden place. This place was a boundless plain. Strong gales whistled through the air, creating a sharp piercing sound. Be careful, we are already inside the spell. Qing Lu was very knowledgeable, so she could tell with one glance that there was a massive spell covering the whole plain, and there were a lot of smaller spells within it. Because of the high level of the spell, it had already merged with the nature. Without great eyesight and knowledge, one would not be able to tell. This should be a mimicry spell. Yi Chen nodded. You know. Qing Lu looked at Yi Chen with surprise. The fact that Yi Chen knew about the spell had already surprised her a lot. But he not only knew about the spell, he even knew what kind of spell it was. There were a lot of spells, and one of them was the mimicry spell. It could use the power of the spell to mimic all kinds of living beings, such as humans, beasts, or some other weird living beings. The power of these simulated living beings would be related to the rank of the spell. The higher the rank of the spell, the more powerful they would be. The more powerful the spell could even mimic living beings with the power of a life and death realm warrior and kill them. I know a little. Yi Chen said vaguely. His soul power was 5 times more powerful than normal people, and its quality was equivalent to the soul power of a life and death realm warrior. Naturally, he could tell if there was a spell on the plane. As for being able to tell the type of the spell, it was because of the spell knowledge that the Battle King had imprinted in his brain. He only needed to sense a little bit to know that it was a mimicry spell. Alright, let's go. Qing Lu put away her surprise and said to the four. Yes, teacher. Yan Fengfeng was not surprised at all, since Yi Chen had a lot of secrets. After walking for a while, the 5 saw a gray-white stone tablet. There were 4 big words written on it, Grey Wolf Plain. Qing Lu said, if I have guessed it right, this should be the Grey Wolf spell set up by the 4 extreme emperors Grey Wolf King. What it mimics is a demonic wolf. Everyone, please be careful. After walking for a while, the wind on the plain was getting stronger and stronger. Howl. In the distance, 7 gigantic greenish-gray wolves, each the size of an adult elephant, ran over. These gigantic wolves had extremely long fur, and when the wind blew, it looked like greenish-gray flames were burning. Their eyes were ferocious and cruel, and they flickered with a blood-red light. The first one to jump over was the wolf on the left. It threw out a claw attack, and the green-gray claw light covered all 5 of them. Its battling power was not weaker than normal Sea of Souls realm master-level warriors. Die! Qing Lu ignored it. She waved her right hand and threw out a palm attack. That condensed palm power was like crystal, sweeping across the ground. Including the other wolves, all of them were shattered by that horrifying palm power. On the ground, there was a deep plow mark. Half-step King Warrior Jin Yuan was indeed horrifying. Yi Chen finally knew the power of the half-step King Warrior. Not to mention the others, just their Jin Yuan alone was already something that peak-level late Seas of Souls realm warriors could not compete with. It could already be solidified, and the density of the Jin Yuan had increased by more than 5 times. Besides that, Yi Chen realized that the space inside the forbidden place was more than 10 times more stable than the space outside. Normally, the attacks from master-level Sea of Souls realm warriors would be able to twist the space. But inside the forbidden place, even Qing Lu, who was a half-step king warrior, could not move the space at all. Qing Lu had also sensed the stability of the space, so she frowned slightly. The 5 of them flew in the sky at a moderate speed. Before those wolves could even get close, they had already been shattered by Qing Lu, who was a half-step king warrior. However, it was very obvious that the power of the Ash Wolf formation had just begun to show. At the end of the horizon, densely packed black shadows were moving over like a black tide. When they got closer, they realized that they were all huge ash wolves. With a rough glance, the number of ash wolves that were running over was at least 800, if not 1,000. The surging demonic energy caused the sky above the ash wolf plains to be pitch black. One wouldn't be able to see their fingers in front of them. Only pairs of red eyes could be seen, as though they were vengeful ghosts. Everyone, be careful. Try not to get separated. Right then, Qing Lu did not dare to be careless anymore. These wolves that were made with the power of the spell did not have long-range attacking power. It seemed like they could only fight in close combat. However, there were almost 1,000 Sea of Souls realm master-level wolves jumping over, so no one dared to be careless. Mysterious Sky Spell. The wolves could not attack from a distance, but Qing Lu could. She formed a spell with both of her hands, and a shocking Jin Yuan vibration spread out from her hands. Go! After forming the spell, Qing Lu pushed both of her hands toward the wolf pack. Pap! There was no earth-shattering sound, but a weird palm print appeared in the middle of the moving wolf pack. It covered hundreds of meters in radius, and at least dozens of wolves had been killed by it. With one attack, she had killed dozens of master-level Sea of Souls realm wolves. She must be one of the top warriors among the half-step king warriors. Major Phoenix Cut. Burning Sky Fist. Yan Fengfeng and the leader of the mysterious mountain Lin Gaoming had also thrown out their attacks. They had both killed 7 to 8 wolves, which was not even 1/3 of what Qing Lu had done. Then, Murong Qingcheng used her Dark Devour to devour 6 to 7 wolves. This attack of hers was still far from completion, but judging on group killing power, it was already not that much weaker than Yan Fengfeng and Lin Gaoming's. Once it reached completion, its power would not be underestimated. Thunder Devour. Yi Chen used his Jin Yuan to form a huge black thunderball. He shot it out, exploding in the middle of the wolf pack. The crazy thunder devoured their bodies, killing more than 20 wolves within a second as he chased after Qing Lu. She is indeed the unbeatable being below the half-step king warrior level. Qing Lu glanced at Yi Chen, feeling very surprised. The wolves were running at a very fast speed. After 2 rounds of attacks, they had arrived in front of them, surrounding the 5 of them. A woo! A woo! A shrill wolf howl was heard as all of the wolves started to attack the 5 of them. That powerful claw light filled the sky. Kill! There were still 7 to 8 white-headed wolves left. Qing Lu took the lead and threw out her ace attack. Wherever she went, the wolves would be shattered one after another. She was unstoppable. Yi Chen and the other 3 formed a circle and charged into the wolf pack. After all, 2 fists would not be able to fight against 4 hands, not to mention 700 to 800 wolves. Even so, there were just too many wolves, and all of them were at master level Sea of Soul's realm. It would be impossible to avoid all of the attacks. Not to mention the 4 of them, even Qing Lu had been attacked by the wolves from time to time. It was just that her protective Jin Yuan was way too powerful, and those wolves' attacks had been blown away instead, landing on other wolves. Boom! Yi Chen had already been attacked dozens of times. His protective Jin Yuan was shaking, making a cracking sound. The other 3 were even worse, their faces starting to turn pale. No, there are just too many of them. If this continues, even if we can kill them all, we would be wounded as well, which would not be good for the future. With that thought in mind, Yi Chen did not plan to hold back anymore. 3-sword attack. Pointing out his sword finger, the gold sword on Yi Chen's back took out of its scabbard. It split into 3, turning into 3 beams of gold light and shooting out like lightning. Pooh! 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 It was like cutting rice straws, as the wolves fell down one after another. Before, Yi Chen's kill count was only 2/3 of Qing Lu's, but right now, it was already above her. It did not mean that his power was already more powerful than her, it was just that the defensive sword spell was too powerful. It was not like the normal attacks, where he would have to pause for a second after each attack. However, the defensive sword spell was completely controlled by soul power, and there was no pause at all. Wherever it went, it would be more horrifying than a lawnmower. This is, the defensive sword spell. Qing Lu's pupils shrunk. With such a huge movement, it was impossible for her not to notice it. Yi Chen's killing speed was unimaginable. A normal defensive sword spell would not be this powerful. No matter how stupid she was, she knew that Yi Chen must be a soul warrior. The defensive sword spell's power would increase exponentially in his hands. 500. 300. 100. Soon, there were only less than 100 wolves left out of the 800. The density of the wolves had decreased a lot, and the pressure on Murong Qingcheng and the other 2 had decreased a lot as well. Landing print. Qing Lu once again formed a spell. In the midair, 100-meter square crystal palm print appeared, smashing down at an extreme speed. The second it landed on the ground around it started to shake. A circular shockwave spread out in all directions. Out of the less than 100 wolves, half of them were killed. The rest of the wolves were much easier to deal with, as they were all shattered. Waiting until all the wolves had been killed, Qing Lu let out a breath and said to Yi Chen with a smile, "With your power, you would be able to threaten even normal half-step king warriors. This trip to the graveyard, perhaps you would be the key." Facing a powerful enemy, Qing Lu would definitely be stalled by the demi-king warriors and would not be able to take care of them. But with Yi Chen there, it would be much easier. Basically, no one below the demi-king warrior would be his opponent. And normal demi-king warriors, Yi Chen would be able to use his defensive sword spell to fight with them. "I will try my best." Yi Chen nodded. Then, the 5 of them continued to move forward. In front of the Grey Wolf Plain was a lava land. The whole world was red, and there would be hot lava shooting out from time to time, burning the sky red. Caw, 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 in the sky, horrifying bird cries were heard. Countless massive fire birds jumped toward the skinny elder and the young man with the colored symbol on his forehead. Their faces were slightly flushed. Although it was not dangerous, it was not easy either. These firebirds were stronger than the wolves on the Tsanglang plain. Their speed was also faster than the wolves. When they swooped down, they were even faster than lightning. If it were not for their tyrannical strength, they would have already fallen here. 5 Symbol Palm. The young man's body was surrounded by the colored symbol, blocking out the firebird's attacks. Meanwhile, he himself pushed his Jin Yuan and threw out a palm attack. Pap! 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 5 twisted symbols were thrown out in the midair. Those firebirds were hit by the symbols, and their bodies were shattered into pieces. Then, they were covered by the colored flame and burned into ashes. The young man's colored flame was way more powerful than the firebirds. Wind Tooth. The thin old man was much stronger than the young man. He waved his hand, and a violent storm appeared out of nowhere. It rolled into a ball, and from time to time, crescent moon-like wind blades would burst out from the storm and sweep across the sky. They swept down a large number of firebirds and cleared the sky. Chapter 7:17. Let's go. Most of the simulated spell did not have the trapping effect. As long as one left the coverage of the spell, one would not be attacked by the power of the spell. After the skinny elder had killed a huge amount of firebirds, his body flashed and he rushed out through the gaps of the dense firebirds. The young man also knew that he could not kill all of those firebirds. If he fought with his life on the line, it would only hurt him badly. Therefore, the second the elder finished talking, he had already chased after him. Caw 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 caw, hundreds of firebirds were like a fiery red ribbon of light, trailing behind the two. Unfortunately, like the ash wolf, these firebirds could not attack from afar. Only a few firebirds at the very front could hit the two with fireballs, causing countless sparks of fire to fly. So hot. Passing through the huge Tsanglang plain, Yi Chen and the other 4 arrived at the lava land. The temperature here was at least 100 times higher than the outside world. Even iron would melt if it was placed on the ground. The air was like a burning stream. Normal warriors would definitely burn their lungs if they took a breath. This should be the fire bird spell. It is not a good idea to fight with brute force. Let's go through if we have the chance. Qing Lu reminded the other 4. The ground was pitch black and covered in cracks, the lava was bright red, and the sky was filled with black smoke. The environment of the lava field was extremely harsh. It was very difficult for flesh and blood lifeforms to survive here. Only some natural lifeforms of the fire attribute would like this place. The 5 of them flew in the sky, avoiding the lava that was shooting up from time to time. Caw! All of a sudden, there was a huge volcano in front of them. There was a wave of red tide rushing out. Getting closer, they realized that it was not a tide, but a sea of firebirds. Those firebirds did not have a physical body. They were completely made up of pure fire power. Between the flapping of their wings, the flame would burn even more. The temperature of the air had increased by a couple of times, and it could even melt metal. Black Sky Print. Qing Lu attacked first, killing a group of firebirds. Yi Chen performed his defensive sword spell. 3 beams of gold light shot through the firebirds. Wherever they went, the firebirds fell down like rain, disappearing into nothingness. Everyone, follow me. Qing Lu's protective Jin Yuan layer suddenly expanded by a couple of times, covering all 4 of them. She then crashed into the dense firebird flock. Bang 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 bang, Half-Step King's protective Jin Yuan was extremely powerful. Even if it had expanded by several times, it was still not something these master-grade firebirds could break through. One by one, the firebirds were knocked dizzy by the Jin Yuan, and their formation was in disorder, unable to unite. Rumble. Suddenly, a loud noise came out from the protective layer. Qing Lu's face turned pale and her body froze. It turned out that there were 3 firebirds that were a couple of times bigger than Lu Wujin. Their power was not that much weaker than Lu Wujian's. They were attacking the protective Jin Yuan layer together, stopping the five from breaking through. Star-picking hand. Qing Lu yelled. Her left and right hands were like butterflies flying through the air, breaking the necks of the two firebirds. The intense chi explosion had blown away the other firebird as well. Sword control art. Yi Qin seized the chance to activate his sword spell, and the golden sword pierced through the bird's body. Go! There was no time to lose. The firebirds behind them had already caught up, so the five increased their speed and flew into the distance. Soon, they had left the firebirds behind them far behind. Behind the grey wolf plain was a land of lava. Behind the land of lava was a misty white fog. The fog had the effect of isolating soul power. When one was in the fog, one would not be able to distinguish one's position. One would also not know which direction to walk in to get out of the fog. The White Sheep King who was under the command of the Four Extreme Emperor is good at illusion spells. The spell that he had set up must be an illusion spell. It does not have any attacking power, but it could trap people inside. If they could not break it, then they might even die of old age inside. This is bad. Qing Lu did not have that kind of power like Xianhou. Although she knew a thing or two about illusion spells, she was not that good at it. On the other hand, who was the White Sheep King? He was a powerful beast king in the ancient times, and before he was taken over by the Four Extreme Emperor, he had dominated the world. Even king warriors at the same level would have to be cautious of him, afraid of falling into his illusion spell. Right now, the most powerful one among the five was only the half-step King Qing Lu, so how could she break the illusion spell? Let me try. Murong Qingqing stood out. You. Qing Lu looked at Murong Qingqing with surprise. Murong Qingqing's power was indeed not weak, but she had always been low-key, so Qing Lu did not know what kind of power she had. Senior Qing Lu, don't worry. I can handle it. Yi Qin knew Murong Qingqing very well. It could be said that the demons from the ancient times were not afraid of illusion spells at all, and Murong Qingqing had also inherited this advantage. Her pair of demon eyes could see through the illusion spell. Walking to the front, Murong Qingqing activated her demon power and transferred it into her eyes. The next second, her pupils turned gold. Her eyesight could see through the illusion spell and into the distance. Let's go there. Murong Qingqing pointed to the left. Let's go. Yi Qin could not trust Murong Qingqing more. Qing Lu and the other two hesitated a little bit before following up. After a couple of hours, everyone indeed walked out of the illusion spell. The perfect demi-demon bloodline is indeed worthy of its name. You have the special features of humans, but also inherited the demon's advantage. Qing Lu was completely convinced by Murong Qingqing. When exploring an unknown place, it was the most annoying thing to not be able to see or hear. But with Murong Qingqing here, she would not have to worry about it. Senior, you are flattering me. Ever since she got together with Yi Qin, Murong Qingqing no longer covered her face. She had covered her face before because she had made up her mind. Before she met the person she loved, she did not want to show her face to too many people. Right now, a smile appeared on her face. So beautiful. Just like Qing Xian, the most beautiful woman in the world. Even though Qing Lu was a woman, she could not help but compliment in her mind. Just like that, the five of them passed 3 spells and arrived at the last one. This spell was made by the leader of the 4 kings under the 4 Extreme Emperor, the Sky Scorpion King. It was called the Sky Scorpion spell. The Sky Scorpion spell was also an imitation spell, but it was not hard to imagine that the imitation spell made by the Sky Scorpion King would be way more powerful than the Ash Wolf King and the Firebird King. On the other side of the Sky Scorpion spell, the skinny elder and the young man were having a hard fight. Their opponent was a huge scorpion beast. Normal scorpion beasts would not be able to make them fight hard. This scorpion beast had already surpassed rank 10, and was between rank 10 and rank 11. It was a half-step Scorpion King, which was extremely powerful. The black beast power could be solidified and condensed on the black shell, which had an extremely high defense. The huge shell was extremely heavy, and its tail was even harder to defend. 5-symbol palm. The young man controlled the natural Yuan Qi and threw out a palm attack on the shell of the half-step Scorpion King. Boom! The twisted symbol had only broken a part of the black solid beast power, but it did not hurt the half-step Scorpion King at all. Tian, you hold it down. I will prepare my defense-breaking ace attack. The skinny elder did not want to waste time with the half-step Scorpion King. He was sure that if they really wanted to waste time, it would not be them killing the half-step Scorpion King, but the half-step Scorpion King killing them. The half-step Scorpion King's beast power storage was way more powerful than theirs, plus with the support of the Sky Scorpion spell, it was like a fish in the water. All right. The young man nodded with his teeth clenched. The area covered by the Sky Scorpion spell was a barren land. After walking for 1,000 miles, Yi Chen and the other 4 had already been attacked by 5 to 6 groups of scorpion beasts. Judging on the power, they might not be that much more powerful than the fire bird, but they were the best at attacking. Their unstoppable tail was also unpredictable, like a hidden killer in the dark. With just a little bit of carelessness, they would be killed. Most importantly, the defense of the scorpion beasts was not something that the fire bird and the gray wolf could compete with. After killing groups after groups of scorpion beasts, the 5 of them had consumed a lot of Jin Yuan. Fortunately, the 3 of them had brought enough Jin Yuan pellets before they came, and Murong Qingqing had the demon essence inside her body, which allowed her to recover her demon power at an extremely fast speed. Therefore, it would not be a problem for a while. Shoo! 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 Just when the 5 of them had killed the 7th group of scorpion beasts, a cluster of black clouds suddenly appeared from the deep mountains. Inside the dark clouds, there was a small mountain-sized scorpion beast. It was not only 10 times bigger than before, but its black beast power could even solidify, like a layer of black armor covering its shell. It had a pair of huge plates, each of which was the size of a house. They were clamped together, bringing with them a metal clashing sound. The long tail on its back was floating in the dark clouds, the hook shining with a purple light. It was obviously poisonous. Half-step Scorpion King. Qing Lu frowned. There were half-step king warriors among the humans, and there were also half-step beast kings among the beasts. Qing Lu had not expected that there would be a half-step Scorpion King in this Sky Scorpion spell. Although this half-step Scorpion King's Qi was not that powerful, and its beast power cultivation was just below the middle of the half-step beast kings. However, in the same realm between half-step king warriors and half-step beast kings, the half-step beast kings would be a lot more powerful. Plus, the half-step beast king would be inside the Sky Scorpion spell, which would allow it to use its power as much as it wanted. Hiss. The half-step Scorpion King that was formed by the Sky Scorpion spell did not know how to talk. Its body flashed once, bringing along rolling dark clouds as it attacked towards the 5. When it got close to the 5, the half-step Scorpion King threw out a claw like a pair of huge scissors. Piss off. Qing Lu's right hand shone with a dark blue light as she threw out a palm attack onto the Scorpion King's claw, bringing up a metal exploding sound that made people cringe. The half-step Scorpion King was indeed a half-step Scorpion King. After exchanging one attack with Qing Lu, it had only backed out for dozens of meters and was not wounded at all. The tail hook on its back suddenly appeared from the left side, drawing an arc in the air as it attacked towards Murong Qingqing and Yi Chen. Go! Yi Chen's reflexes were extremely powerful. The second the tail hook moved, he had already put up his sword fingers. His gold sword flew out of its scabbard, blocking out the half-step Scorpion King's tail hook. Landing spell. Qing Lu did not back out at all. She formed a spell with both of her hands and a huge crystal palm print fell from the sky. It landed heavily on the back of the half-step Scorpion King, making it sink down like a huge mountain. Let's go. After one attack, Qing Lu did not want to waste time with the half-step Scorpion King anymore, so she tried to leave. Unfortunately, although the half-step Scorpion King was restricted by the Sky Scorpion spell and could not attack from a distance, its long tail hook could reach out very far, landing heavily on Qing Lu's half-step Jin Yuan. Boom! Qing Lu backed out for dozens of steps, her face slightly pale. The protective Jin Yuan layer outside of her body had been corroded. The poison on that tail hook was indeed powerful, being able to corrode even half-step King Warrior's Jin Yuan. It was not hard to imagine that once the body was invaded by the poison, it would turn into a pile of white bones within a second. You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.